All right, so we are back with the Catenaccio by the Catenaccio podcast boys, and you'll be seeing that there's no Luca today, with his fantastic selection of shirts in the background. And welcome back, guys. It's of course a Monday, so we're always live on a Monday. We have a very special guest today, who we will be introducing in just a second. So I'd say we get on to it as fast as possible. As always, I'm your host for today, the most humble and the prettiest host of them all, Ale Ardoriani. And I had a tie on a minute ago, but yeah, we thought it was a bit over the top. I didn't look like my usual incredible self. I just looked like a Bible seller. But moving on, Jonathan, straight from Rotterdam. Jonathan, what's up?
All's good over here. Lazio's finally safe. We have a game in hand, so things are looking up in our world.
We're looking, to be fair, we look pretty good. We're going to talk about that, whether they are that good. And then next up, we'll go with Ricky. Ricky, what's up?
Hi guys, always nice to be back, and yeah, let's have a good episode.
And then Emiliano, as always, basically our champion of Italy, always with his smug face, talking about how they're not going to win the league. Yeah. And what is it you always do when Inter plays? It's like 5 minutes in and you're like, oh, guys, we're going to lose this. You absolute baby.
I actually predicted. I told my father, like, the only thing Conte could do in that game was put Hakimi to change something around. And that was exactly what happened. So I'm proud of that. Slightly proud of that.
You're a football genius. There's none like you in the world. And then last but not least, our super guest for the day, Carlo G. Carlo, do you want to introduce yourself and tell the people what you do for our live viewers and our podcast viewers as well?
Yeah, hey guys. Yeah, thanks for inviting me onto your show. It should be a lot of fun today. Yeah, so I've been in the journalist for getting on now 13, 14 years. So I'm starting to feel a bit old now. Although I started when I was quite young. So yeah, I'm not that old. But yeah, Italian football journalism. That's where I started, in the Italian football media. And I've done a bit of everything during that time. I've been a writer, I've been a broadcaster, I've been an editor, and now I'm kind of the last couple of years I've moved back more towards Italian football, focusing more on that, which is my love, really. That's my passion. And since I was a kid, I've always Italian football has been my passion. So yeah.
And how much? Well, first of all, I'll say as well that I'm putting in the Twitch chat right now all the links to Carlo's stuff. So his Twitter and the Italian football podcast that he does as well. And well, the first question I got to ask you, Carlo, which I always ask, apart from the fact that you're a journalist in between us, which is, it's like an oxymoron. It's like we're a bunch of morons here, and you're a journalist, so the difference is really gonna show. But apart from that, how do you view Italian football in the time you've been focusing on it for a long time now? Where you said, what was it, 13 years? How much has it changed, and has it gone up? Has it gone down? Has it been going up and down? What have you seen lately on all sides, all aspects of it?
Yeah, it's interesting actually you say that, because when I was starting, actually the first year that I actually started, AC Milan were the European champions. So it was 2007, 2008. That's the first season when I started working, and I was doing specifically Italian football that season. And at the time, I think everybody in Italian that loved Italian football, the fans, the people that worked in the clubs, the league, everyone was in denial about that Italian football was on the decline. And I remember when Milan were playing Arsenal in a Champions League last 16 game, I think it was, that season when they were the holders. And I remember thinking before the game, no one's going to beat Milan. It's Milan. They're going to win. And then they lost. It was a kind of shock defeat. They lost 2-0 and got completely outplayed at San Siro by a young Arsenal team. But even then, for a couple of years after, then Inter won it in 2010. And even then, you still kind of believe that, because Italy was still world champions at that time. And I think it probably took until maybe 2014, 2015 kind of time before I started to realise, Italian football does have some problems, and this isn't the same quality of the league and the players. And, so it took a little bit of time for it to really hit home. But definitely, yeah. I mean, when I grew up as a kid in the 90s, Italian football was the biggest league in the world, and it was untouchable. And like the every single season, you'd have the three major European cups, the Champions League, the UEFA Cup, and the Cup Winners' Cup. There would be Italian teams in the final winning the cups every single year. So I grew up just thinking of Italian teams as being the best in the world and completely unstoppable. And now it's been 11 years now. We're in 2021. It's been 11 years since an Italian team won the European title, and that was Inter in 2010. So yeah. I mean, it's Italian football's still great. It still has that unique thing about it, which no other league has. Still has that drama, that kind of like soap opera, like the passion that no other leagues have. But in terms of quality, there's no doubt that compared to what it was, it's obviously gone down a lot. And the biggest reason for that is probably the money, financial side.
I think also, would you agree with me that I think Italian teams kind of through the years hype themselves up a bit, to the point where they thought, we are Milan still, even though it's 2016 and you're in a banter era with De Jong in the middle of the field, and they never realized that they should have become a bit more humble and look at the other leagues and look at how the Dortmunds who create their talents, how teams in the Prem as well lately especially have been really producing talents and and pushing to create homegrown talents, and not they still spend a lot of money, but they still look for the next generation of the England players that are coming up to the Euros are incredible. There's so many of them who are so young. It's scary. I think, would you agree with me in saying that some of the Italian teams have maybe been too comfortable, not humble enough, and to learn from the other teams as well?
Yeah, I think for a long time, the Italian teams kept playing, having the same values, whether it be the type of football they played, tactically, the way that they approached everything really within the football clubs, the league, and this insect flying around me here, they didn't, they got left behind a little bit, and it's taken a long time. I mean, from a commercial aspect, if we just talk about the Italian league is so far behind the Premier League when it comes to financial matters, and from a marketing point of view, even now today, Italian football is just a joke when it comes to marketing. They're just a complete joke. The league, the clubs, but even tactically, the kind of old Italian style of play of going 1-0 up and holding on to your lead, playing with a deep defensive line, and that kind of, I'm not going to say Catenaccio because that's a stereotype, but you know what I mean. The kind of defensive style of football, counter-attacking. It's only really, I would say, in the last year or two that Italian teams have realised that you can't win playing this kind of football anymore. I would say even as recently as a couple of years. So from that point of view, they didn't. And also, trusting young players and the youth academies. I mean, Italy was producing no youth talent between really, probably if we say like 2012, 2013, right until maybe the last couple of years where, we're starting to see some good young players starting to come through again now. Italy was producing no youth talent. So in a way, Italian football didn't look to the future. But unfortunately, a lot of these problems are still there, unfortunately.
100%. I was looking the other day, and Amy, can you refresh us later about this? Do you remember you were chatting about on the WhatsApp group about how much money a team, the last place team in the Prem gets by being relegated, and in comparison to number one in Italy? Do you remember?
That's a quick thing. I think, of course, they get a lot of money, but it's because I think there's a bonus for getting relegated. So basically, it's to help you not lose all your talent, lose all your players. I think it's also done in Serie, but of course the amount of money is nowhere near what Premier League clubs get. But just quickly talk about revenue. I think this morning I looked it up, and winning the Premier League gives you almost 100 million more than winning Serie A. And that's just you can't compare with those numbers. It's almost double the money you get from winning Serie A.
It's incredible. I think
And the
those
TV revenue as well.
Yeah.
That is the killer.
Well,
That
the
is
fact that
absolute killer.
the fact that most Italian teams, their stadiums are not owned by them, they have to pay like a tax to the council and stuff. It's baffling to me.
So, talk about TV deals. It just got signed, I think, 2 weeks ago, and already we've had a massive drama, let's say, because of the company
Yeah.
that got the rights. They had a terrible weekend this past Saturday, I think it was, where literally their streaming service didn't work, so
Oh yeah,
no one
yeah,
was
true,
able to
true.
watch the game. And this is the kind of companies that get the TV deals in Italy. I think it's just a joke, the fact that someone like that was able to
Yeah.
outbid
But
someone like
can I-
Sky.
can
And
be
they're
honest?
famous. They were consistently bad with internet problems.
Yeah, true. DAZN, yeah. Amy, but you know what was really interesting? When the service was down, Inter played more attacking football. It was incredible. All right, we'll get on to the show though. There's enough seeing our smug faces and talking about the Prem and getting depressed about how bad Italian football has become. But let's get on to it. As I said before, I put the links down in the comments. Oh yeah, we already got a comment by the way. Gab Zero is back, guys, and he says, "Good evening, guys. Be careful what you say. Maresca could ban you." That is, to be fair, that is true. We'll be talking
Sembra
about it
strano.
later. Sembra strano. I mean, we'll be talking about it later, but it was an absolute shocker done by the Maresca referee in the Milan game. But let's get on to it. So, results, I think it was the first time in God knows how many years. I don't remember the stat that all the top 7 teams won in the same weekend. So, let's start off with the other results. Spezia Crotone 3-2. I think Spezia basically sank all of Crotone's chances to stay in the league, guys. And I think they finally show 2 things. First of all, that teams that dare, the Serie B teams that dare in Serie A, finally, they're getting something out of it. Usually, I remember the Serie B teams used to just play really crappy football and go for a tie. Spezia really play, I think, their hearts out when they play, and I think there's a couple results during the year that really show. I think do we lose to them? No,
Maybe.
I don't remember.
I think this is a very big positive. We talked 5 minutes ago about how bad the top of Serie A was, especially in Europe. I think the bottom, let's say 10 teams, have really improved. The way they now go to San Siro, Allianz, Olimpico, and they play their game. They're not gonna go Catenaccio. You're not scoring. Maybe Cagliari a bit, but
Cagliari, yeah, but the Cagliari game the Inter game was ridiculous, guys. I remember. Amy, do you remember a certain point that you guys were winning 1-0 and you guys have the ball at the back of De Vrij and Cagliari wasn't pressing you? So literally De Vrij looked forward, looked back. I was like, why would I go forward if they're not pressing me? I'll just pass it around the back. And then João Pedro realized and he's like, I'll start pressing a bit more. But yeah, big result for Spezia. And then moving on, Milan won 3-1. It was a really good game and we'll talk about the red card in a minute. Torino making the relegation battle even more interesting by winning against Udinese. Inter, they won against Cagliari, as always. The 2 Catenacciari team, it was incredible. It was like the ultimate Catenacciaro battle. It was disgusting.
Oh, where's Udinese? Where's Udinese?
What you mean Udinese? Udinese.
They're the true Catenacciari.
It was a bus competition. To be fair, one was a really bad penalty to Torino. It was just such a dumb decision. Lazio, Johnny, what was your reaction?
Godo, clean win.
Clean win.
Clean win in the 91st minute.
With Milinkovic. Milinkovic he's such a good player as well. Juve Genoa, 3-1 win for Juve. And then Napoli beating Sampdoria 2-0. And then we're going to talk about that Torsby goal being, taken off because that was so stupid. I wish Luca was here because Luca would have been fuming, especially after some of the penalties and stuff or fouls given against Milan, like one against Lazio. And then Roma-Bologna 1-0. Bologna absolutely dominated the game, but they do this thing where they just can't score. And Fiorentina-Atalanta, I think, was the best game of the weekend. It was so exciting. Dusan Vlahovic, I think he beat the record. He's the first player born in the year 2000 to score 20 goals in Serie A, which is incredible, I think. And then I remember we had last week a discussion whether Belotti or Vlahovic was better for Milan. And then Benevento Sassuolo is being played right now, but we have better stuff to do. Who puts Benevento Sassuolo on a Monday night? Honestly,
I think Sassuolo is winning. Boga scored.
yeah, Boga scored.
I think it was. I think it might have been an own goal though. They changed it.
Oh.
Anyway, these are results as we talked about, and then we can see right there. The first thing we're gonna at least mention, we're gonna have a chat about referees is the red card. Guys, you all know what happened, right?
Yeah,
Right, don't
yeah,
get
yeah,
too
yeah.
get too excited.
Yeah,
I
with
was muted. I was
Ibra.
muted.
Yeah.
It was
Apparently, like he misunderstood him, right? He said,
yeah. What did
he
you
s-
know about this, Johnny?
I heard that he said something like "Mammi ascolti" or something like that, and he understood it as
No,
"Sei un bastardo" or
he said
something
mi
like that.
sembra strano.
Mi sembra
He said mi
strano.
sembra strano, and he understands sei un bastardo. We can say
Well,
this. It's
and Amy, I swear it's the same ref that sent off Conte. He's got this,
Yes.
the protagonism complex.
As Conte would say, sempre tu. Always
Sempre
him.
tu.
It's always him.
Sempre tu. Carlo, I have a question. I know that people in the UK have been complaining so much about VAR this year. They're like, "Oh, VAR is ruining football and whatnot." But how would you judge Italian football referees? And we'll get straight into the slide. Do you think Italian referees are up to the standard, or do you think they're some of the worst? Because I've seen some shocking things this year, especially.
Yeah, well, first of all, and that's Zlatan incident. I spoke to Milan this morning. Source I have at Milan, and they I mean, obviously they're going to say this, but they said that Zlatan said nothing at all
Yeah.
to the referee of any. I mean, I know that's been reported in the media as well. And what Milan is saying is that they're waiting for the referee to basically admit that he was wrong.
Which
And
is
if that
never
hap-
going to happen.
Which,
Never going to happen.
knowing
know,
Maresca's, knowing Maresca the way he is. Yeah, go on. I mean,
Just really quickly, I've heard that Donnarumma is now under investigation because of what he said to Maresca. So instead of admitting that they were wrong, they're doubling down and they might even suspend Gigio, which is insane to me.
okay, I've not heard about the Donnarumma thing, but I mean that wouldn't surprise me at all because Maresca is somebody that he does seem to be one of those referees that likes to be the centre of attention. You know, unfortunately, you get some of these kind of referees that we joke about it, and it's not something that you really should joke about. But you do get some referees sometimes who were, maybe teased at school, and they when they get older, they want to go into a position of authority. So they either become a policeman or a traffic warden or a referee. So that sounds a bit horrible because it's not good. Like, I'm not condoning bullying or anything like that, but it's true though. You do often find that people that go into these kind of positions where they get power hungry because they've suddenly got to put themselves.
Yeah, it's like a power trip.
But yeah, Maresca comes across as one of these guys who he needs to feel like he's got power over everyone. So yeah, the chances of him admitting he's made a mistake, I think, are pretty slim. But yeah, as for your general question about referees, referees in general, is that I used to believe that Italian referees used to be the best in the world about 15, 20 years ago, maybe. I do think there's definitely been a decline in the standard of referees in recent years. I think there's no doubt about that. And I mean, I look at these referees and none of them really stand out. And I say, oh yeah, that guy's a world-class referee. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Whereas in the past, we would pick out a referee. Collina, obviously, somebody. Like Collina. He's regarded as maybe the greatest ever. Whereas these, I don't look at any of these and say, oh yeah, he everybody knows him.
Even
maybe
Rizzoli.
Rizzoli. Rosato's maybe the only one that's known. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Orsato, I think I don't want to be mistaken, but he might have in 2018 refereed the World Cup final. Is that possible? Or the Champions League final? I mean, we see Italian referees in important, global games. But like in Italy, it seems like the average referee is just not performing, not the level it should be. Yeah. And in fact, sorry, I just wanted to add that in the last week, the two matches, Juve Napoli and Inter Sassuolo, that were the one they didn't play, there were actually three clear penalties that, I mean, with VAR you should at least go and watch. And I mean, it was one for Juve, one for Napoli, and one for Sassuolo that maybe, Amy, you were saying that it wasn't. But I mean, with the VAR,
it's one of those that could be 50-50. Like, if whatever they call on the pitch stays. Like, if he called a penalty, it would have stayed a penalty. If he didn't call it, I think it's because
but
you see
I think
the play was already going down.
Especially, yeah. But especially also with the ones in Juve Napoli for both teams, at least go to see them. Like I don't understand why they didn't use the VAR.
I
I
still
mean,
don't get it,
I don't
guys.
know.
But when it comes to VAR, I swear it was Ancelotti made a big thing about this. Who actually decides who gets a final decision? Is it the ref or the VAR?
It's
Because
the
I know
referee.
The ref, right?
because I
I
watch
think it's
rugby.
the ref.
Because I watch rugby every
Unless-
once in a while, and I know that in rugby it's the TMO that always decides. He's
No.
they're the final voice basically.
I think it's
In
for ref
Serie-
in football.
Yes,
it's-
it is ref unless it's an objective decision, like an offsides.
Yeah,
In that case, it's the VAR who decides.
but that's sorry. Isn't that like in terms of an idea just so stupid? Because you got this guy who's been running up and down the pitch. He's got he's got a heavy breath. Players are probably and managers insulting him for the last 90 minutes. How is he going to be clear-minded enough to make a decision on something like that by seeing it on a screen on the pitch while he's got 90,000, let's say, people shouting at him, telling him to go die? You know what I mean? Like, I think it's stupid that they don't that this hasn't been resolved. And I think it goes back to the power trip you were talking about, Carlo. I think it's because referees are like, I'm a referee on this pitch, so I get to make the decision at the end of the day. I think it's going to be that. Amy, do you want to present us this slide you made for us about the Serie referee crisis? Because I think it could be interesting because it kind of flips the discussion as well. Because maybe it's not as clear as it seems. Go for it.
So first of all, I'm going to explain what these tables mean because there wasn't much space to label them properly. So the one you see on the left is, let's say, episodes that went either for or against the team. So either they were benefited by the decision or they were harmed by the decision. So on the left column, and by the way, you see in the bottom right corner, these are the websites I used to get this data. It wasn't me, of course, who went, Inter received for...
Imagine being that salty.
No. I took the data from these three websites, of course.
Yeah.
So that's why there's a 0 in Inter. They probably didn't account for this a swallow game. They didn't think it was a penalty, but you could add that one there.
Yeah.
So basically, you see, I of course I didn't take all 20 teams because there's very small difference between them. So I took all the top 7, so the top 7 currently in the league standings, plus the 3 worst and the 3 best. So the 3 that were harmed the most and the 3 that were benefited the most.
Yeah.
Of course, there's some overlap. So maybe like Napoli, they were the top team in terms of favors, and they were also top 7. So the list is kind of
And with that Thorsby goal from this weekend, I think it would be one more as well.
Yeah.
Such a light contact. I still don't get how they gave that. Like how they decided that it wasn't that it was a foul. Like in the box, I swear contacts are so gray area. Like I've seen people literally choke each other out in the box, nothing said, and then this guy like basically jumps and kind of puts his hands on the other guy's shoulders, and it's a foul, and the goal is done. Is not given. Like I don't get it. I honestly don't get it.
There's just double standard with different referees in different games. They just take different approaches to a game. Let's say you can see it on the right hand side on the right table, how certain refs give. Like you see Orsato, he has given 2 red cards and no penalties. That of course might have to do with the games he's reffed, how the games have gone. But in 12 games, 0 penalties, that seems like way too low. Red cards can be explained, like maybe the teams weren't aggressive, there weren't brawls, there were no like occasions to give a red card, let's say.
Yeah.
But penalties, you see contacts in the box almost every game, let's say. So there's this double standard. From game to game, it changes so much.
Did you guys see the goal they took from Caicedo?
Oh,
He scored a Euro goal. It was insane, the goal he scored.
But he did slap a guy in the face, did he not?
Not really. Like, but the guy like holding on to him the whole time.
How am I to trust you? You're the Lazio fan.
Yeah, but still, it's like double standards. The guy was holding on to him, holding on to his shirt the entire time.
Yeah.
And then Caicedo pushes back once, and it's a foul,
Okay. I don't know. I personally think it was a foul because he literally slapped him in the face.
The defenders get helped a lot, though. I agree with that point. You saw even, I think it was a game against Roma for us, where Mancini elbowed Skriniar in the face to get the space, and that wasn't the goal wasn't removed. Of course, you can say it was a 90th minute goal. It was for a draw. It was super important. You can't remove it. But I think, in my opinion, if it's a foul, it's a foul. You have to blow the whistle.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that I think the guys in the box, in the VAR box, got to be the most important ones. All right, we'll get on to the next segment if no one has anything to say. And this is going to be the most important segment of the day. I'm going to go into edit mode because we're going to talk about transfer topper flops. You guys might remember last week, and we talked about how what our opinions were about the managers, whether they should be confirmed or not. Well, I'll start off by asking you, Carlo. First of all, which team do you think had the best transfer, made the best transfers? Who do you think was the best transfer, even if we're not in this list that we got below? And who do you think is the most surprising transfer?
Gosh, which team had the best transfers? That's a difficult question because, I mean, none of the big teams are immediately coming to mind because. I mean, you could say Inter, did well to buy someone like Hakimi. He was great, but then they had Vidal and Kolarov, who have done nothing at all. But you've got Juventus, who actually have had individually a few good signings, and you've had Chiesa, who's probably been for me the signing of the season.
Really?
But if you in Serie A, for me, he's been the signing of the season. But if you look at Juventus's overall transfer market, it was insufficient because they didn't strengthen well enough the areas that needed strengthened, but they had some good individual signings in there, So it's a difficult one, and I would say the same for quite a few of the teams with that. So I mean, I don't think there's any one team really that stands out. Certainly not out of the big teams.
You know what? I'd actually say Atalanta. Because I think Atalanta had a great purchase with Romero. They purchase. He's on loan, but I don't know if are they gonna. Is he?
I think he has with the option to buy.
I like 20 million. I think.
I think they did really well in not having an obligation to buy Caldara, so that hot pile of garbage is coming to Milan in June. I don't know what we're gonna do with it, and then. I think the only one to talk about here is maybe Mele was a very good replacement. I think for Hattaway. I think he's not been missed at all. The Gomez situation, I don't know because he was a great player, but the guys who are being subbing him in, they've been great. I think they like especially Pessina. I think finally got his space and he's doing quite well. Maybe the only one who hasn't really surprised me that much is what's his name, Lammers, but he's young, he's not meant to explode.
And there's a lot of players in his way as well,
Yeah.
And I would agree with you. Sorry, Ricardo, I would agree that Atalanta would be the number ones because also look at the sales they've made as well. They've made some huge sales. Kulusevski without barely playing a game for them. 40 odd million. They sold Diallo. To Man United again. Played a few games and they sold him for massive money as well. So I think you're right. Atalanta have definitely been the best team.
What's up, Ricky?
No, I mean I partially agree with that because I think that some transfers have been like Romero, you were saying before, Mele, but if we think about like transfers that were supposed to have a stronger impact, I think of Miranchuk and Lammers, that they are potentially. Then I agree that they have in front other players, and it's not easy for them also because they're young. But I think they didn't meet the expectations, and so I don't see those as good transfers. On the other hand, I think that Juve, all the transfers they made this year are all in a way successful, but not too successful because we can argue that Arthur isn't performing as he was expected to. The injuries and maybe consistency, but the transfer itself, bringing Arthur and giving Pjanic, that was great. And Amy was saying it also last time. McKennie, Kulusevski, Chiesa. So I think all of Juve's transfers are spot on.
The good thing about Juve is that all of the players they bought are starters now. Or at least in the rotation of the starting team.
Yeah, none of them are out, you say. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we'll just get right on to it then, and then we'll ask you guys. So the first guy we start off with, I know Emiliano's a great fan.
Flop.
All right, we're done. We'll
Flop.
close the stream. All right, Vidal, guys. Vidal, I was expecting him to be incredible. I was expecting him to be like the Juve Vidal. Ricky, especially, will know how good he was at Juve those years. But Vidal, for me personally, was a massive flop. Can we all agree?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
But
Yeah, because at
on a
least,
money term, he
or at
became our
least,
right.
yeah, or at least expecting him, not the Juve player, because that was a couple of years ago. But that at Barcelona he was so much better. At Bayern Munich also.
Yeah.
So
The biggest problem I have with him is that he was brought in as a experienced player who knew how to win, let's say.
Yeah.
So he would bring maybe leadership to the locker room, like change the mentality, let's say. When in reality, he was one of the ones maybe holding us back, especially if you think Champions League, how he got a red card, I think, in 10, 15 minutes,
Yeah.
left us in 10 men, just doing all the wrong things, let's say, which was what really disappointed me. Because physically, he maybe wasn't there anymore.
But wait, Gab Zero is
mental-
back with his comments, and he goes, "Flop for Inter, top for Milano's pubs." That's incredible. What a guy!
And the
Massive
all the
salary
money
as
they get
well.
from the fines.
Yeah, they built so many parks because of him. What a nice guy.
The
Anyway,
massive salary as well. He's on 6 million, and with Inter's financial situation, that's going to be a problem this summer for them as well.
True.
I think he's on a. I think he becomes a free agent, if I'm not mistaken.
what?
I think he's got another year.
Another year, okay.
Yeah.
All right, then moving on. Well, you mentioned him, Carlo, but Hakimi. Do you wanna give us a comment about how good Hakimi has been for Inter? We'll
Yeah,
finish
fantastic.
this up. Is
Fantastic.
he the best right back, or let's say right? Yeah, we'll say right back in Serie A right now.
I think so. Him or Lazzari. I mean, we're wing backs in a wing back role. Yeah, I don't think you can find anyone. I mean, Quadrado's been fantastic as well. I think he's got something like 14 assists. But I mean, if I had to pick one, if you're saying right, we're building a squad here, who do you want? I think you go for Hakimi, and he's definitely added a new dimension to Inter's team this year. He's so quick, and he's just devastating on that right hand side.
It makes me wonder again, guys. And okay, so Hakimi and Theo flops at Real Madrid. Lukaku, Sanchez, and who's the other?
Hakimi didn't flop at Madrid. He never played there, did he?
Yeah, but they were so willing to send him away, and
not a flop, though. They just wanted money.
If you're at Real Madrid and you got a guy who at Borussia Dortmund was showing the world that he's got stuff, he's got skills to pay the bills, but at the same time you have Carvajal in your team and Vasquez, and you'd rather keep Vasquez over him. So to me, it's crazy.
I think the thing about Hakimi is that he's really good off the ball. Like when he can move freely behind the defense and into the space. And I think in Real you need a player who's better on the ball. Like when you need long times of possession, keeping the ball, passing it around the back, passing it to the midfield, which isn't really his quality. So I don't think Hakimi would have been that much of a mistake in selling him. I think Theo was a lot more of a mistake, especially as they went to buy Mendy for so much money. Instead, they already had the talent in their cantera, let's say.
Yeah, well, but guys, Hakimi is incredible. He's having a hell of a season, and I think still people don't talk about him enough. There was a point where we thought he might be the new Gozens as well. What another player. Then we'll move on, guys. Osimhen could be the first one who puts us in a bit of a debate. Osimhen, do you think he's a top or he's a flop for now?
Flop for me for the money.
I think, I agree with Amy because, 80 million. Flop simply because you would expect him to do much, much more. But for 80 million, you would expect him playing. How many games did he play?
I'm going to look it up right now. I'm going to look up his stats right now.
I think with Osimhen, it's if you're judging it just on this season or just from the start of the season to now, you say a flop because of the amount of money that was paid for him. But I am going to say that I believe in this player. I think he's got a lot of ability and a lot of potential, and it would not surprise me at all if next season he explodes. I think he's had an unfortunate situation where he started the season really well without scoring too many. I remember the game against Atalanta where he destroyed Romero in that game, absolutely destroyed him. Romero's been one of the best centre backs in Serie A this season. and then he got an injury, and then he got another injury. Then he had the COVID situation where he went back home, and then so like and then he came back and got another injury, and so like he lost months, 3-4 months the season. And when he came back, you know, he wasn't fully fit. So, you know, it's been a kind of unfortunate season for him. I think he's started to warm up now. The last few games, he looked good against Juventus. Come on, he's warming up. It wouldn't surprise me if he had a good end to the season. So it's a difficult one. I mean,
I put him in the middle. I put him right in the
possibly,
middle.
yeah. It was a lot of money though.
Yeah,
They did overpay.
I agree with Carlo.
Well,
I agree
guys,
with Carlo that
I'll
if
tell
we
you
look
the
at
stats.
short term for this season,
Yeah, he's only played 16 games, of which he started 9.
yeah.
He
So
scored what? He
I mean,
scored
for this
5.
season flop, but maybe for the long term, he can be he will be an important player for Napoli. Otherwise, they wouldn't pay him 80 million.
Yeah. Personally, I personally don't think he flopped that much. But well, if a consensus, Jonathan, what do you think? Is Osimhen a flop or is he? Because I personally would put him in the
No.
middle.
Look, we need to also keep in consideration only one season passed.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about young players or just players in general come from other leagues. You need to give them time. For example, I'll give you a direct example of Lazio. Luis Alberto, his first season, he never played. And now he's one of the best midfielders in the league.
Yeah.
Milinkovic, same story. And it's the same for so many other teams, right? I'm sure in Juventus,
but Johnny,
in Inter.
they paid so much. You know, he's not like a wonder kid. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, we're gonna wait for him.
Yeah, but still,
Like,
I mean, he also had
already.
injuries. And when he played, they were winning. But like when he was playing, I'm pretty sure they were winning a lot. So he must have been doing something right. I think he's good. I think Napoli should just give him more time. I mean, why should they sell him? There's no point. If they just make a loss, just
No,
keep him.
not sell him, but I mean,
Yeah.
you know, consider. Well, I'll put him in the flop, but I'm gonna put him. If I put this guy here, at least he's right. He's very close to the edge. Sorry for our podcast listener, by the way, we're doing a transfer flop or top with our with players for a couple of the transfers that have gone this season. We're not gonna talk about some players that we always talk about, like Tomori, like I don't know. Also, Chiesa, we always mention him in some way. But we're going to talk about some people that maybe we don't mention enough. And so when I say to the right, it's flop. When I say to the left, it's top. And guys, remind me sometimes if I go too much of a visual. Next up, we mentioned him, Miranchuk, guys. Miranchuk, to me, is... I personally don't know how to judge him. I was expecting, you know, he's got, Champions League experience. You know, he was very piped up. And apparently everyone's like, oh, he's going to be perfect for the Atalanta sister. He's a bit of a ghost, isn't he? Ricky, were you expecting more?
As
from
I said
before. Oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, as I said before, I think we all expected much more from him. Then it's difficult to enter in the Atalanta system, as we discussed in the past episodes. But I would say probably the same as Osimhen. Maybe good for the few. Maybe it wasn't his season. Maybe, you know, if he stays at Atalanta in the next season, he can find. In the next season, he can find more plays and become a more important player. But this season, he wasn't the best, let's say. Yeah.
But wait, Amy, before you go, the thing that really annoys me, though, is that when Atalanta do their transfers, we know that they study them pretty well because, you know, it's rare that they miss a transfer. So the real question is it him or is it the context that is just not working for him, at least right now?
I feel like Atalanta has way too many options up top. That's, I think, my biggest problem with him.
Yeah.
Because if you look, you have a guy like Muriel, who isn't even a starter for Atalanta, and he has, 15 goals this season? Even more?
Yeah.
Like, if he isn't started, how could Miranchuk get consistent play?
Yeah.
So I think the environment affected him a lot. So maybe it was a bad transfer for Atalanta.
Yeah.
Looking at the position they were in. So I would put him in the flop category, but
he's only started
maybe
3 in 20 appearances. He's only started 3, and he's only got 2 goals and he's got 1 assist. Yeah, Carlo, what do you think? Is he a top or a flop?
Right, he's Russian. Where do the Russians ever travel well? They never do. I mean, you could count on one hand the number of Russian footballers who have gone to a top league and become stars of the league. So
true.
You know, it's a stereotype, but it is is true. To be honest, it's very, very
Yeah,
key.
it speaks.
Yeah,
Having
guys,
said
just
that,
think about. Go for it, Carlo. Sorry.
yeah, go on. Go.
No, I just got to my mind also if you think about Kokorin that went to Fiorentina in January and
Yeah, where is he?
zero, absolutely
I
zero. Like
bought him
he
in
made even one of,
Catenaccio.
and yeah, at the start he was so much, everyone was so excited for him, and at the moment maybe one appearance, not even starting.
It speaks measures of the fact that I didn't even put him there because I literally forgot about him.
Yeah.
I literally forgot about him. Sorry.
Yeah.
I remember watching Miranchuk in the Champions League against Juventus last season and being blown away by what a talent he was. I remember watching him after 10 minutes. I turned to my friend and I said, "This guy looks like a great player." That's the first time I'd ever seen him. So I think he is a very talented player. But as Emiliano said, they've got too many players for their position. So he's only started 3 matches this season. They've all been off the bench the rest of the games. And, he's got too many players. He's competing with too many players. Now, Ilicic might leave in the summer, potentially. So that will push him a little bit further up the ladder. Maybe he will get more opportunities. But, there's even with Ilicic gone, there's still a lot of players fighting for those 2 attacking midfield roles. You've got Muriel, you've got Malinovsky, you've got Pasalic, you've got...
Pessina.
Yeah, Pessina, who's the first choice. You've got Ilicic still now, and then you had Papu Gomez before. Yeah, it's crazy the number of players that are fighting for those roles.
We had that. I wish we had. As a Milan fan, I wish we had that. Carlo, I wanted to ask you, where would you see Ilicic best, in your opinion, in Italy? Like, if you could just visualize it now, where would you see him, and where would you think he'd be best?
Ilicic.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at the formation, he obviously he plays best in that kind of trequartista role, in that little area in between the midfield and the attack. So kind of any team that's playing that with a system like that, I mean, he could fit into the Milan system. I know he's been heavily linked, but I don't think he fits into their strategy, to be honest with you. So I would be surprised. I would be surprised if he goes to Milan. But I know he's been very heavily linked. He would fit in well there, I think, if he proves he's still got the legs for another season, because he's 33 and a half now, so he's not, he's not young. But Milan need a right winger. He could definitely fit in on that right hand side and then drift inside, because the Milan 3 attacking midfielders at Milan, they do interchange quite a lot.
Quite good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he would suit the Milan system that way.
Yeah. They're so fluid. Çalhanoğlu sometimes literally disappears off a pitch and doesn't come back. It's incredible.
My biggest nightmare would be Milan switching Çalhanoğlu with Ilicic.
Well, because you think it's a really good upgrade.
For Milan, it would be insanely good.
Yeah, I think so.
Especially the money Çalhanoğlu is asking for, absurd.
I think it's what we missed as well. Çalhanoğlu doesn't do it that much. With Ibra drifting so much, like outside of the box, we miss someone who just like cuts in, like a center mid that cuts in and scores every once in a while. And I think he would be perfect for that. But yeah, it's I wonder what we're gonna do about it. Well, guys, next up. So wait,
Can I say one thing about Ilicic, which maybe is an unpopular opinion? I was thinking, I don't know why, but I have this feeling that in a team like Milan or in, let's say, big teams, he wouldn't be as good or perform in the same way as he is doing now at Atalanta, because if we remember him, his best seasons were in teams like Palermo, Fiorentina, now at Atalanta. He never really played for a big team, so I don't know. I think he's
Do you think
good
it's
for
when
those
he doesn't
teams.
have that pressure on? Do you reckon it's when he doesn't have the spotlight on? He gets to perform.
Yeah, maybe also
No,
that.
I don't know. Wasn't he always their best performer in Champions League normally?
Yeah, he scored a
Him and
hat-trick
Papu.
against...
Yeah, like honestly,
Yeah.
I think Ilicic would do really well in a big team. If he has good players around him and he can get the ball more and have more space.
I think he got to that age, that football age, where he doesn't like that kind of pressure doesn't even influence him anymore. Because he's not like
Yeah, he's old.
Old.
Yeah, I mean he's a
doesn't-
Football-wise,
he doesn't
he's
do
old.
any defensive work.
Yeah.
He does no defensive work, which might be an issue at the big clubs. That's one thing I agree with Ricardo on. Although Gasperini is very big on that, he did create a kind of system where he allowed Papu and Ilicic to do no work off the ball, and I think that is what I understand is that's the main reason why they got rid of Papu because of that.
I still remember in the game in Bergamo against Real that, or maybe it was in Madrid. Anyways, he was subbed in, and Gasperini. I remember
in
he
Bergamo,
was
it was in
so
Bergamo.
angry, because Ilicic couldn't, let's say, enter mentally in the game in the defensive phase, and so maybe. I don't know. It would be interesting. As I said before, he never actually played for a big team. So, I mean, if it happens, we will have. It will be interesting to see.
Yeah. All right, let's move on quickly because we're 45. But Pereira, guys, wait, sorry, I went for it. I don't know why, but I'll tell you his stats. But I think he's an absolute. I think he's been doing really well, and I'll tell you why now because I had the stats on a second ago. I think the fact that he plays with De Paul kind of overshadows him. But would you have ever guessed that Pereira has 26 starts out of 26 appearances, 4 goals, and 4 assists? And he's got 25 successful dribbles out of 58. So that's nearly, 58, nearly 50%, something like that. And he's only got 2 big chances missed. I think it's really good numbers for season back. Yeah.
Udinese is decent, yeah, he's a good guy. I've interviewed Pereira. I've met him.
Oh, really? How is he?
Yeah, I've done a sit down. Yeah, he's good fun. He's a lot of good fun. Yeah, we played a few games with him, and he's crazy about a TV show called The Vikings. For some,
what Vikings?
For some crazy reason, he's absolutely mad about it. He kept talking about it.
That is so
random fact, totally random fact there.
Yeah, that is incredible. That is a bit of a gem. So wait, so what did you do exactly in this interview?
When he was at Watford, I went to the Watford training ground. I did a sit down. I did a sit down interview with him. I did it in Italian, even though my Italian's not great, not perfect. Yeah, but I managed to get through it. Yeah, and it was good fun.
Cool. Well, Pereira will be glad that he's probably listening right now, so we'll say hi to Roberto Pereira. But I think, guys, Pereira's got to be a top, especially for the kind of profile player, and also because Watford and Udinese have the same ownership, so it must have been, in terms of finances, it must have kind of been damaging as well.
And then, Carlo, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but at Watford in the Premier League, he was one of the top players in the club. He was performing also very well, right?
The season I interviewed him, he exploded that season. The first half of that season, he was actually, some people thought he was the best player in the league for that first half of the season. He dipped off a little bit after that. He's a good player. He did well at Juventus as well. The first season, but he's a good character as well. It was a funny day that I remember that. It was Stefano Chuka or Kaka.
Kakachuka, yeah.
He was there. He interrupted the interview halfway through. We had to reshoot it.
What did he do?
He just started popped out of the door, and he looked overweight, and he just started shouting and going, "Hey, Pereira," and like that, and.
These are absolute gems. These are incredible. Kakachuka, which is Emiliano loves him at fantasy football, don't you, Amy?
Yeah, me too.
It probably ruined your season. Anyway, Pereira has to go, man. Those are some really cool stories about him. All right, guys. Next up, Mandzukic.
You're gonna have to move Miranchuk and put him there.
Where?
Now you have to move Miranchuk and put Mandzukic there.
Oh,
all the way on the right.
Fair enough. Wait, okay. I'll tell you this, though. Okay. This is why I'm annoyed at Mandzukic. So he came in and, like, on paper, he looked like a perfect transfer from Milan. A seasoned striker who would come on a free and you just have to pay his salary. Got experience. We were first in the league, so we were, believing in winning the league itself and probably getting a comfortable second place. And then absolute nothing. Like, apparently he came in and he was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm super fit. Comes in, gets injured. He looks like he's good to go, gets injured again. Next game against Genoa without Ibrahimovic, people are like, oh, maybe he could play. He's not going to play. Rebic is probably going to play, or Lau is going to play. He's only got 4 appearances, of which 0 are starts, 76 minutes. And he's got 4 shots in total, of which 3 are on target. It's ridiculous.
I disagree that he was a perfect transfer for Milan, because when you look at it, what is he, like 38, 37? Somewhere around that.
Now, yeah.
36. He's
34
actually.
No, he's 34. 34. He's from 1986. 34. Yeah.
Okay, 34. You have someone like Ibra who's close to 40. And of course, you can't expect him to play all 38 games, especially if you have a bit of Europa League in here, a bit of Coppa Italia there. So, in my opinion, you need to get it. Of course, for the price, it was a good deal, but you need to get someone who could be there no matter what. If Ibra got injured, if he got suspended, if Ibra wasn't available or something, someone who was going to be there every single time.
Yeah,
Maybe even coming in.
realistically, like, okay, we were first in the league. We don't want to spend too much money because then it could be a risk if we didn't even get Champions League. You know, out of the names out there, you don't want to spend 30 million on a player. Like, you don't want to do a Piontek where, yeah, Piontek was good for the rest of the season, but then you have to overpay him, and then he ended up not being that good. And you want to play back. You know, if Ibra is fit, he's always going to play. You know, Jesus Christ could come down and Ibra could be like, get him a bench, son. Literally. And so on paper, to me, he ticked over boxes. Carlo, oh, sorry, Ricky, go for it, and then we'll ask Carlo again.
No, I wanted just to point out that on paper, I agree with you, Ale. He was a very good signing. But the fact is, he was extreme. The risk for me was too high because you have to consider that getting a player, even if he was supposed to be Ibra's replacement, but a 34-year-old, after that, he basically spent 1 year in Qatar and then was, it's hard to get that type of player that kind of, let's say, stopped playing football for a couple of years because after he left Juve in 2019, the Qatar and then, so the risk for me was too high. And so, yeah, on paper it was good, but in the end, he didn't reveal to be the good choice, obviously.
All right, guys, we're going to have to go super quick, though. We'll just put him in flop. But we have to go super quick because we're going to leave Carlo go. We're going to let Carlo go in 9 minutes because it's not a hostage situation. But then let's get on to it right away. McKennie, guys, we can all agree he's a
top.
I personally think he's the surprise signing of the season when I asked for questions before.
Yeah.
I think, guys, remember when we first did Catenaccio and it didn't even go online? Our tester episode, we did it. And I said he was going to be the surprise transfer of the season.
I remember.
I think
I wasn't there, probably.
We had a spreadsheet, and it did say McKennie.
Back in the day when we used to do spreadsheets.
Yes.
Guys, Pedro, I think I personally think he's on the same. My opinion for him is on the same level as Mandzukic. You know, it's this guy with all these accolades. You know, he's older, but he's so many. I swear he's like one of the only players on earth which has basically won everything he could have. He won the league, the World Cup, Euros, Champions League, Europa League. He won everything, didn't he? I think he was just disappointing. I think the worst part about him was his attitude as well. Apparently, he's had so many fights with Fonseca. So we all agree he's on flop?
Yeah.
Yes, but considering he was also coming from Chelsea directly, right?
Yeah.
So different situation from Mandzukic. You expected more from him.
Yeah.
His last games at Chelsea, his last season was, I don't know if maybe his last season, but his time at Chelsea was really positive. Like he was a good player for them, I think. If my memory serves me right.
He was absolutely solid. Okay, then Jonathan, you can comment this guy because I know you love him. Murici, the pirate himself.
No problem.
Johnny's crying.
I was about to curse, and then I remembered.
It's protected. Nah, you could curse, but not too much.
Murici should be off the screen completely.
He's gone.
I agree.
Yeah, okay, you might not know this, Carlo. I'm half Turkish, and I watch Fenerbahce, and I remember him last year at Fenerbahce, and I'll tell you this: any okay football player scores 20+ goals in the Turkish league. He scored 15, of which like 5 were penalties. As soon as they bought him, I remember hyping him up to Jonathan. I was like, "Oh, Johnny, bro, you love this guy. He's amazing." And he's like, really, like he's laughing because he does it. And I really hyped him up. And then at a certain point, I remember like 4 days into the league, he goes, "Oi, mate, this guy is dog shit." He's like, "What are you on about?" I was like, "Oh," he was so pissed off because I gave him so much like hope. Caicedo is so much better. And then last but not least,
Caicedo's a god. He should be our starter.
Last but not least, this is the only guy who I'd put in the middle here. Lasagna. I think he's the perfect transfer for Verona because they had Kalinic. What's up?
Yeah, exactly. If you look at the alternative, who's Kalinic? Like,
yeah,
he has to be a good purchase.
I don't know if the stats here. I don't know if the stats for giving me here are for total. So, but it tells me he has 4 goals in the league, and he's got 28 appearances. So he got.
I think 3 of the goals were for Hellas.
Yeah, I think 3
only
of those
one.
were for Hellas.
Yeah.
Right, should we put him in the middle then? Because we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take the executive decision. Okay, he's right in the middle. Okay, guys, last but not least, and then we'll let Carlo go. We got our last segment with Carlo. Start, bench, sell, as always, we do every week. This week, we have selected 3 cams. I wanted to put Zielinski in there because I'm a big fan, but I got shouted out by my own co-hosts, which was really annoying. But we got the 3 players with their best accolades from the league. So we got Çalhanoğlu with MVP, Luis Alberto with the MVP, and Mkhitaryan with a hat-trick against probably like Crotone. So I'm happy for him. But let's get on to it. So these are who we chose for starting, for benching, and for selling. Well, I think it's
Luis Alberto. Church of Luis Alberto.
So, Jonathan,
we pray to our overlords.
Jonathan,
may you bring Lazio success in top 4, please.
As a founder of a Church of Luis Alberto, tell us how underrated this player is, and then we'll ask Carlo to give us his answers, and then we'll let him go.
I'll just tell you this. You know, normally you look at Lazio, you think, okay, Immobile and Milinkovic, it's only them 2. You know, Milinkovic, I agree. I think he did very important, but without Luis Alberto, those are always the games we lose. We drop points. We look like shit. When he plays, we work. I don't know how else to put it. Every ball, every scenario he's in, he does something useful. He passes the ball to a teammate. He gets the ball out for a throw-in. He never loses the ball. I don't know. I'm out of words for him. He's just next level. I think if Juventus got him, they destroy everyone.
I don't think he's ever spoken to a girl like this in his life. Honestly. Carlo, do you wanna we were talking about it before the show about how underrated he is. Do you want to tell us a bit about Luis Alberto and how he's viewed in by the international eye? Because we were talking about how players from Serie A now are not as regarded, but Luis Alberto, what do you think?
Yeah, I think outside of Italy, this is somebody that his class and quality is not really spoken of at all, not really known. And maybe a little bit in Spain because he started to have the odd call up for. I'm not sure if he's in the current Spain national team squad. If he was in the most recent one, I'm not sure. Maybe Johnny might know, but he's he in England he's not somebody that's known. He's just known as the guy that failed at Liverpool. But yeah, I'm a big fan of him. He's an artist, isn't he? He's a great player to watch, and you don't get many players like that anymore in modern football. Those kind of players pretty much disappeared, haven't they? It's all about
the physicality now.
The great thing is he's also physical. He tracks back. He runs a lot. He does tackles. That's why I don't know. I'm my favorite player I ever saw in a Lazio shirt, probably.
Well, guys, I'm on kickers.it, and Kickers this time you have failed me because it says here he has 26 appearances, 8 goals. It says he has 0 assists. Please tell me that's a lie.
It's true. It's true.
He's got 0 assists.
Yeah, bro, do you see where he's playing? He's setting up the assist for the goals.
No way.
You see, this is what's not showing.
The hockey assist, so the pass to the assist.
Exactly.
So that's why on numbers. That's why I think people might not talk about him because it's the numbers.
No, but last year didn't say no. No, but numbers aside, like it's just the way we play. You know, you don't know what to do with a ball, you give it to Luis Alberto. It just makes life easy.
So, Carlo, would you start him out of these 3?
This is so difficult. It really is. I mean, without getting too technical, it depends who the team is, what formation you play. You know, I know it's only a bit of fun, so I won't go all
journalistic on us. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'll go Luis Alberto. I'll do a full house on Luis Alberto. I do enjoy watching him play, I have to say.
Well, if you enjoy him watching him play, well, I think Çalhanoğlu is similar. I think it's one of those few players that sometimes on the pitch, when he wants to actually play well, he's very artistic about it. Like the stuff he does, I think is very beautiful to watch. The problem is he's so inconsistent.
He's inconsistent, yeah.
The question is, between him and Henrik Mkhitaryan, who would you bench?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you're going to sell, obviously, if Çalhanoğlu's younger, you get more money for him. Although his contract's running out, so you get nothing for him. I don't know. It's tough. I'll probably go. If I was going to do a squad, if I'm creating a squad, I'd probably have Çalhanoğlu in my squad and probably get rid of Mkhitaryan because he's an older player. But having said that, though, Mkhitaryan's been fantastic this season. for Roma. He really is.
I love start bench sell because
he's still in good shape as well. I mean, he's 32 years old, but he's got some pace. He's got some pace on the counter, and you know, I'm not sure when he's back for Roma, but we need him back soon for that. You know, assuming they go through for that Man United game. We need him back for that. Otherwise, Roma have got no chance, I think.
Guys, you know what the worst thing is? I want to look up his stats, but I have no clue how to type his surname or his name. I swear to God, every time.
I can tell you it's MKHI.
Wait, MKH. Okay.
H.
Well, I'll just look at his stuff quickly. So he's got 26 appearances, 9 goals, 8 assists. Those are crazy numbers for a debut season.
Yeah.
Those are absolutely crazy. Well, guys, we've seen now that our start bench cell looks a bit like this. Carlo has chosen Luis Alberto as a starter, bench Çalhanoğlu, and he sells Henrik Mkhitaryan exactly like Luca and I, which probably means only one thing. Luca and I have the best opinions football out of all of us here because we follow Carlo. Carlo, it's been exactly 1 hour. We finally get to release you to your normal life. So it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. Thank you so much.
You made me miss the Benevento versus Sassuolo game. I mean, how could you?
Are you thanking me?
How could you take that away from me? Of course.
Yeah, imagine watching Benevento Sassuolo on a Monday night. It ended 1-0 as well. What a shit show. Anyway, Carlo, thank you so much for being with us, and we hope to see you again, especially when we probably will make this. Radio Rossonera new channel with just English content, and again, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, lads. Good fun. Good luck, and enjoy the rest of the show.
All right, cheers.
All right.
Bye, Carlo.
Thank you, Carlo.
Guys.
Grazie mille. Ciao.
Ciao.
All right, we're back with our little panel, guys. What an incredible guest Carlo was. It's always funny to see the contrast between someone like Carlo and someone like us, because he knows what he's doing. But that's the difference between us and him.
Yeah,
he knows what he's talking about. All right, Jonathan, do you want to tell us about the slide you prepared for the rest of the show?
Yes. So basically, Lazio, there's been this whole talk. I've been wanting to talk about it for a few weeks now, but this is when we finally got the chance. Is Lazio, should we keep the current cycle or should we restart? And this essentially means, should Inzaghi and Tari be replaced? Because obviously, you can't really replace Lotito. It's his team. I mean,
bro, look at him in the middle there. Oh my God, you guys know who he looks like?
Who?
Penguin from Batman. Bro, no cap. I'm gonna find a picture. You go on, please.
All right. So essentially, the context is the whole year Inzaghi, his contract's running out in June, right? And we had no news regarding renewal until like recently. Now, apparently, it's supposed to be coming, but it's still nothing official. And the thing is, which bothers me, is imagine like your players in Lazio right now, especially the new players, you're trying to integrate to this team, and you don't even know if a manager will be there next year. Like, think about Muric. He's trying to be...
No, I don't want to think about Muric.
All right, sure,
I'm fine.
Just imagine... All right, Pereira, whatever. Just a player like Escalante, exactly. Escalante, great, talented South American player, comes in Lazio, great team, and he doesn't know if the same manager will be there next year. Like, I think it caused a lot of discomfort for the players, maybe, and they can't concentrate or be as committed as they could. And then going on about it, the results are very good with Inzaghi, but he's very inflexible. He can only play, he only ever played one formation. I don't think he ever in his life started a game without a 3-5-2. I don't think he ever did. And it's good results, but I think it can be exploitable in the long run, maybe. And then now,
if he's gotten good results with that system as well, it means that he has confidence in his own like A players and B in his system. Because there's a lot of like managers that as soon as they get a couple of bad results, they kind of shit themselves and they change. We're like, oh, I'm gonna go to they're judging me. I'm gonna go to 4 at the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. No, but I'll go into more about that later. But then the last talking about Tavares, so our director of football, I guess, is like the position for most clubs. But like for Marotta, for Inter, that kind of guy. So essentially, the last 2 transfer windows under him have been an absolute failure. And I'm gonna reiterate this by the failure to sign a competent left back or like just a competent defense in general in the last 5 years. There is Penguin.
If that's not Lotito, I don't know who is. Look at that. Sorry, let's go on. Let's go on back to the serious stuff.
So essentially, in the last 5 years, especially for left back position, every single time we buy a budget left back, hoping we say, okay, it's a good replacement for Lulic or a good backup because we're cheap. But we're always terrible. We're always shit. And the problem is now Lulic is really old. He's not very good anymore. He just got injured for like an entire season. We don't really have anyone good in the left back position.
Also players like Radu. Like, with all the respect, but why do you still rely on Lulic, Radu, Parolo?
Parolo, the saddest thing about Parolo is, this season he never plays as a center back. He plays every game as a center back or as a right back, Parolo. I don't get it, man.
It's the Cristante special.
Yeah. And now Marozic, what the worst thing is? Guess who our best right center back is? Except for Luis Felipe.
Ramos.
It's Marozic! It's Marozic! The last 2 games, no mistakes, no losing the ball, passing the ball forward. I'm like, holy shit. This is like a new dimension to lads. So I couldn't believe my eyes. Anyway,
bro.
And now going back onto, on schedule, the team is very old now. So if I looked at Milan's average age, and I think it was like 24, so like the lower ends of 24, something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
Lazio, 28.6. I think it's probably one of the oldest in Serie.
I've got it right here. We're going to talk about this next week, especially. But the average age for Milan was 24.6 years. For Lazio, is 29.4.
Oh, that sounds 29. I got 28.6 from Transfer Market. So
I think one is the squad and the other one is the starters. So
mine's
our starters. I was about to move on. Like from our squad's 28.6, our starters are even older. Where our youngest starter is Luis Felipe, who's 24, and he barely he's injured all the time.
Yeah.
After Luis Felipe, it's Correa 26. Like, where's the young blood? I think he's 26, 27. I can check
already.
Bro, he's been here for ages now.
He was much younger.
He's 27. He's 26. Yeah, 26. Yeah, he and Correa 26. Milinkovic has been here forever, man. That's why I think it's a miracle he's still here. And I wouldn't mind. I think we should probably sell him this summer. He's been here for so many seasons now. I think it's time we make money. And it's good for both parties. I think he wants to move on to maybe a more important club, and time for us to make some money. And anyway, now going on to the context, the race for top 4 is still on. So that's just in a good spot. I think if we win our game in hand, we're -3 from Atalanta. The problem is we do not have a head-to-head to them because we beat them 3-1, but they beat us 4-1. So kind of unfortunate. I've been looking at the league results. I think I'm going to start about both sides of the argument. So if we should start a new cycle or keep it. So for keeping it, just look at the league results. For the Lotito era, I don't think we've ever been this stable. And also we got Champions League, which we never got. Well, we got once before.
I don't think a lot of teams in general have ever been this stable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then look at how we won 3 trophies as well. Like we've been, we also went to the final once and lost of Coppa Italia. We in Europa League, we did okay. We've been doing pretty well.
You guys got a crap group this year for Champions League, and then you got Bayern, and you still, at least in a group, you held up your own.
Yeah.
So what do you think it would take, Jonathan, to actually make that final jump? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So that's why I think some people, I do not think we should restart, because if you think about it, look at how many teams try to start a new project and just failed, and most of the time it fails because it's very difficult to make something that works. And in Lazio, we tried so often to make something that works, and finally we have it. So maybe in this position, sure, our team is very old. We've not been playing very well. Immobile is washed up. But I still think Inzaghi should be the coach we try to go on with the long term, because we know that he can actually consistently get those results, and he can develop players, because he did develop Milinkovic. He even developed Correa in some way. He developed Luis Felipe.
Yeah.
So we know he can make players better, and we know he gets the results.
Yeah.
So I'd keep him. And for the next step, and then Tare, I do not know if we should keep Tare or not. Probably, but he definitely needs to shake things up, because the last 2 windows have been horrendous. Although all the windows before were fantastic. So I'm being very hypocritical. Calling him out for this.
If I can say something real quick, I think with Lazio, I feel like they've hit a wall in the sense that I don't think you're ever going to go top. I don't think you're with this team. I don't think you're ever winning a title, but you're never going to get out of Europe. I think you're going to be a stable 4th to 7th, maybe 3rd to 7th. I think that's sustainable.
I agree, and that's why I think the fans, like some fans, are greedy and they want more. But we have to be realistic here.
The perfect metaphor is the one Arda uses, the one of the car. Can you repeat it for us, please?
This guy is the best. Okay, listen up. So there's a small parking space, okay, and you just got in. You're trying to get out, but the space is so small. You just gotta go forward, backward, forward, backward, forward, backward, forward, and eventually you'll get out. But it just takes a bit of a long time. You could reverse it completely, go on the sidewalk, and then fuck off. But then, that'll be illegal. That'll be a bit of a
break your car. You break your car.
You risk.
Yeah, it's risky. You lose stuff along the way.
Exactly. Listen, it's only Luca who doesn't appreciate my little metaphors. You know what? Okay, everybody, hashtag fuck Luca for not being here. Honestly,
actually, what you asked me about what's the next step? I think it's actually more interesting. It's a more interesting question. Should we keep the cycle? What's the next step? You're right. Actually, that's what the question we should be asking. What's next for Lazio? Personally, I think we do need to rebuild in a small way some of our team. Milinkovic will probably be sold, and if you think that's a very key player, so I think a lot about how he play will probably change with that. And then I think Immobile, I've been saying it for 3 years now. Enough is enough. He needs to go. I think it's impossible now, but he can't be our starting striker anymore.
I think
he can't.
With the deal you gave him last year, I think you've tied your fate to him.
I said it back then.
Okay, but imagine this, though. Imagine from an outside perspective, the Golden Boot winner, and we're saying, no, you shouldn't start next year. Isn't that crazy?
This has happened before as well. Maybe a similar situation. You look at us in 2010, where, of course, we won everything. And then the year after, we were so decent. I think we got second. Then in 2012, the whole team crumbled. We refused to get new players in. Even Milito fell off a cliff. He went from probably top 3 strikers in Europe to not even in the top 20. And I think that's the risk that Lazio is taking at this moment. But at the same time, if you look, it took us 9 years to get back to, let's say, top form, and maybe 3 or even 4 different projects.
And Inter got more money than us. That's how difficult it is. So I really think we've really fucked up in keeping Immobile. I think he was a player we had to bank out on, take 50 million, whatever they gave us, because I really believe that even Caicedo as a starter is good. I don't think it changes Lazio that much. He scores penalties as well. I mean, he's got that, and go ahead, Amy.
The thing, Immobile relies a lot on his pace.
Yeah,
and the first thing that goes.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was always saying. Why I want to get rid of him. He's 31 now, man. He's old.
I'm never gonna forget that goal against Napoli, though. That thing where Ronaldo chopped free defense.
Yeah, he was insane. I'm gonna say he was insane, but we need to look at the long term. Already now, this guy isn't working as a striker anymore. What do you expect for the next few years? Where we're going to be objectively weaker because we're going to lose players, or players are we're not in their form anymore. You have to look about it objectively. We're probably going to be weaker in the next years, and that's why we need to start replacing.
Yeah. Probably, right. I don't know, but maybe changing you were mentioning before Tare, because Inter had 9 years in which it was all a process. But Amy, we can argue that the real turning point was Marotta when he arrived in 2018. You are already having a change with Spalletti, but Marotta really brought in those players that now are key for Inter. So maybe, Inzaghi, he's doing his decent job, and the stats here shows some, consistency. But maybe, it needs a different management of the sports area, which can bring players maybe different than Murici or Escalante or Andreas Pereira that are just not useful to improve.
Yeah, exactly. The whole thing is we're getting these players who are expensive for starters. They're expensive, it's a lot for Lazio. They're not young, and they're not even that good. That's the problem. If it was a young player, sure. I don't know. It's very worrying when you look at the team. I don't see anyone there who you say, okay, I know this guy can play at Lazio for the next, let's say, 10 years consistently. You can't say that about anybody. And sure, it's very unrealistic, but for example, Radu did that, and you can't Well, Rayo played even more than that. But I'm just saying that there's like nobody young in Lazio right now. Milan, some of the starting 11 are still in their early years.
Emiliano, check private chat. Sorry, Johnny, go on.
Yeah, but that's about Immobile. I wanted to ask, what does this mean for the national team? He's on a goal drought. Hopefully, Mancini is gonna realize if he wants to get out of the group or win something, he should start Belotti.
So I just find this crazy because this is the thing. Because I don't watch him in and out, but it still sounds crazy to me to think about this Golden Boot winner who's not that good for you. Do you think you could actually get anything out of Belotti right now, like selling him? Is it like realistically something you could do?
Or Immobile, you mean?
Immobile.
What did I say?
You said Belotti by accident. It's fine.
That's why I said
I still think we could probably sell him. The question is if he would want to go and if a club would, because we're paying him like $3.5 million a year now. Big contract.
Wait, $3 million a year?
3.5.
That is, but Calhanoglu was like 7, bro.
Yeah, still, you're Milan, we're Lazio. I mean, and Calhanoglu is still a much better player than Immobile in his own right. Like, sure, Luis Alberto, we're underpaying him. I do not know why he renewed, but that's a different discussion. Immobile, I don't know. I think we kind of screwed ourselves. Caicedo's old as well. This summer we need to sign a young striker.
Yeah, but Immobile is 31, right? And after the past year, the Golden Boot of last year, it looks like, as you said, Johnny, now he will forever be at Lazio. And I mean, I don't know if we think about teams that could be interested in Immobile, who would you guys say? Because it's not also that easy. Because I think he really likes and thinks that Lazio is he doesn't want to go away from Lazio. So
I think it would be too risky to get someone like Scamacca. You know what I mean? Like I think in a certain way, Immobile scores you 20 goals per season every year. Even if he's on his worst day, he'll score 20 a season. It's hard to replace someone like that, and it's really hard to replace someone who's so loved, at least in some way, by the fans.
I don't know, Scamacca. I don't know
who would be.
Scamacca picks up a ball and he shoots. Did you guys watch Scamacca?
Yeah, he always does that.
Every time he gets the ball, as soon as it's opening, he lets it fly. So I don't know.
Sorry, Johnny. Who's your dream realistic player from Serie A? What the hell am I doing?
From Serie, that's very difficult.
Sorry. Yeah, go for it.
It's fine. From Serie A, dream player. I mean, honestly, I do not think Scamacca would be the best, because I do not think he would work well in the system we have, or the striker still has to play a bit with others. I have no idea. I think
if Caputo was younger, he would be the perfect replacement.
Personally, I love someone the style of Dzeko. So that kind, like a very technical player who who's also big. Yeah.
You ever heard of Morici?
If you want, we can give you Bernardeschi. He has many roles he can move in.
Mandzukic as well.
So Mandzukic would have been good, but I don't know. Now he's looking terrible. I would have said Mandzukic.
I can't tell if he's good or not because he doesn't play, does he?
Last summer, I would have said I would have said bring Mandzukic right now, but I don't know. Right now, he's never playing. Someone said Vlahovic. Vlahovic would be amazing, bro, but
Vlahovic is expensive. Right, guys. Well, especially with
about Vlahovic.
Penguin here.
About Vlahovic. I said it last time. I still think that Fiorentina want really to build the team and the future on him. So, I mean, I don't think that if they offer 100 million, the Commisso will be like, I don't know. But I think they rely a lot on him for the future. So he's a Fiorentina thing at the moment.
Comisa is joining the chat, says Gab0. I love this guy. All right, guys, let's move on to it. I have a headache. I have a banging headache. Let's get Amy. Just go through the table very, very, very quickly. But can you notice how we're getting to that point, guys, where slowly and carefully, there's not a lot of movement until something happens. You know what I mean?
You didn't reload the page.
So am I the dumb one?
There we go. Right. No, it is.
Amy, just give us the changes, and especially I want to look at that relegation battle because the top is still interesting. Yeah, we'll talk about it, but yeah, give us the sauce.
Okay, so of course, the first team in Milan with 74 points. Second, La Rigorista, let's say, with 63. Third is Juve with 62. Finally,
I muted him. I'm sorry, I can't hear that.
no more asterisks. Finally, only Lazio and Torino. So of course, Juve with 62, Atalanta with 61, Napoli with 59.
He died.
Shame.
Okay.
R.I.P.
Vlahovic on Instagram liking pictures of
Yeah,
himself
that's
with a
true.
Milan jersey. What do you
I just
think?
saw that on Twitter. So apparently there was this. Someone made like a poll about like who would be the best striker for Milan, and Vlahovic voted himself. I'll just go quickly through the table. He voted for
I like
himself.
this guy. I
know,
think
right?
Vlahovic is one of those like no F's given, you know.
Yeah, he reminds. I think
confident, I
I think
like
he's a bit of an Ibra. He's a young Ibra.
I don't
Like,
know,
in
but
terms of
I
confidence.
remember his goal against Inter, like for confidence, he just ran at the players, just did whatever the hell he wanted.
Yeah, I didn't put him on in my fantasy football this weekend, and I lost.
No
because of that.
respect. I love him. I love how he doesn't.
I trusted him and I won.
I put Ghazi instead of him. I was so dumb. I don't know why, but I put Ghazi. All right, Amy, go on and tell us about the table quickly so we can.
Of course, where did I disconnect?
Well,
Do
you said Rigorista.
Sassuolo.
Okay.
I think you were at Sassuolo.
Okay, so
Maybe.
From Sassuolo, of course, they just won 20 minutes ago, so they overtake Hellas again. They have 43, Hellas has 41. Sam has 36 points, and then on the right hand side of the table, we have Bologna at 34, Udinese at 33, Genoa at 32, Spezia gaining 2 positions. Of course, Benevento had that game in hand, but then they ended up losing. Gaining 2 positions, they have 32 points. Benevento with 30, Fiorentina dropping 2. They were 1, but it's actually supposed to be 2. They were 14th. They have 30 points. Torino, that game in hand, 27, which actually this might be the, let's say, death sentence of the bottom 3 right now, because 5 points is quite a bit. Cagliari with 22, Parma with 20, and then Crotone with 15.
I think we can say that Crotone and Parma are basically.
But even Cagliari, to be honest, because if you look, if Torino wins, I don't know if it's happening, but
against
let's say even if they get 1 point, I don't know if they're closing that gap.
I think it's one of the first times in so much that 2 teams that have come up could save themselves.
Yeah, but also now looking at the relegation zone, Cagliari, with the team they had, it's impressive. Like they have players like Godin.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Nainggolan, obviously. João Pedro.
Rugani, Cragno. Yeah, I think a lot of teams are going to go shopping at Cagliari if they go down. It could be
that's interesting. If our players
really
come back. I don't know if Godin or Nainggolan would. I think Godin we actually sold him, so I don't know.
I think Nainggolan is going one place and one place only.
Roma. Back to Roma.
He's going home, guys.
Personally, I would love to see that. Because
it'll be good for him.
I don't know if he has it anymore though.
No, but he's a good laugh as well for the. I think it depends also if Dzeko is staying, and it depends who the next manager is. If the next manager is someone like Allegri, I don't think Nainggolan's going to be there.
I hope Fonseca stays.
His lifestyle was barely sustainable when he was 25. Now he's past 30. I don't know if he can keep going as a top player.
He's a force of nature. All right, guys, we'll close off the episode with our predictions for next week. You can see them right there. And then our predictions, these are the ones from last week. The points were absolutely terrible. But apart from that,
I got every game right except for one.
For one, yeah. Well,
no one got a perfect score. No one got the perfect score of games.
It's terrible. So. It was absolutely terrible. Guys, as always, we have been the Catenaccio. It's been a really good episode. We have been the Catenaccio podcast. I don't know if we're going to be here on the Radio Rossonera Twitch for much longer. Go check out our YouTube channel. Literally just type in Catenaccio podcast on YouTube. You'll find clips and you'll find our full shows. Thank you so much for following us. We want to thank Carlo again for being there with us today. And I'm going to say bye to my panelists as always, Jonathan.
Bye, guys. Also, one last thing. I think we should get Muriel to replace Immobile. Throw 30 million at them, and that's it. Solid.
Salty. Next up, we have Ricky.
Bye, guys. Always a pleasure.
Ricky got complimented
ciao.
for his hair, so he's really happy today.
Fortunately, the hairdressers are opening again, so maybe next week I'll come. No, we'll see.
I know the podcast people won't be able to see us, but I look like the mortgage like advertisements where we're like, if you want to get a mortgage, trust us. All right, Emiliano.
Thank you. Hopefully, I'll come back with better Wi-Fi next week. So I hope it wasn't too bad.
Nah, just kidding. No, it was good. It was good. And then last but not least, I have been your host for today, Ale Ardariani, as always. I used to have a tie, but they made me take it off. And thank you so much for watching the Catenaccio podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you next Monday. Am I wrong? Next Monday. Next Monday, where we won't have a guest, but then the Thursday after that, we're going to have Siaush Falai. I hope I didn't butcher his name, who is an Inter fan, unfortunately, but we're going to be having him. So thank you guys so much. See you. Bye-bye.
Forza Lazio.